Hey everyone, before we get started on this three-part series about my journey of being a caregiver for my mom during cancer treatment, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about why I started this channel. Back in 2020, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, I turned to the internet to find answers. Not because I knew what I was looking for, but just because I knew that's what I used for everything else in my life. When something came up and I didn't know an answer, I went to the internet. But see, this time it was different. What I realized was the internet's great for just cold hard facts, but it's not great for empathy. Everything you read is just so matter of fact. And as a result, it became very, very traumatizing in a way to have to go through that experience of learning on the fly what every word, every treatment, every process, every this or that in the whole cancer treatment paradigm meant by reading it on a piece of paper digitally. I turned to the internet for answers, and what I got was more confusion and more questions. And when your world is turned upside down by something such as cancer for someone that you love, what you really need more than just cold hard facts is empathy. And so the reason why I started this channel is because I wanted to share my experiences of going through this process side by side with my mom from the very beginning to give people an idea of what it's like if you ever have to be put in this position yourself. I don't wish this upon anybody, but if you are in this position, I hope that this can be a resource for other people. And so if this even helps one other person along their journey, I'm thankful that I took the time to make these videos. Anyway, if you found these videos because you're searching for answers, because someone in your family or you yourself are going through cancer, please know that you can reach out to me at any time. If I can help in any way, I'd be happy to do so. Okay, let's get back to the episodes. Welcome back to Adam Theory, where we talk about investing, startups, and life in general. In today's episode, I wanted to talk to you about the real reason why I started this YouTube channel in the first place. My mom was diagnosed with Non-Hodgkins Lymphoma in the summer of 2020, and it changed my life in an instant. I had to get smart quick on cancer treatment, I had to learn how to become a caregiver, and I had to juggle my startup while keeping the focus on what was truly important, my family. So why am I sitting in front of a camera with the red light recording, talking about something so personal? Because I don't feel like there's enough information out there about cancer treatment, and being a caregiver for someone going through it. I remember thinking a few weeks into the journey, I wish there was more resources. I wish someone would just tell me what to do. I wish someone could just guide me. I also had a lot of questions running through my head. How do people do this on their own? What if they don't speak the language? Or if they aren't financially secure? There were a lot of questions but no answers. I made a promise to myself that if we got out of it on the other side, I'd do what I could to help. So this is just the first step of hopefully many. I'm making these videos to talk about the journey so I can be support to someone in the future going through something like this. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can in these videos, from the pre-diagnosis, the diagnosis, the treatment, and post-treatment. But I'm sure I'll forget some stuff because there's a lot of things happening all at once, but I'll do my best to cover what I can. Now, these are just coming from my perspective as a caregiver. I wasn't the one going through cancer, but I was by my mom's side through thick and thin from the very beginning, and so I feel as though I had a first-hand experience of what she was going through. So let's talk about our journey. Let's talk about where it all started. Back in October of 2019, my mom went in for a procedure to get a lump biopsied. And the results came back 2 weeks later, and it was deemed to be non-cancerous. And the doctor told us that we had nothing to worry about. And so for my parents, that was pretty much the end of it. Now I remember this pretty vividly because it happened at a time when I was on a trip to Denmark with my brother. I was there for work presenting to healthcare startups that were looking to come to the US. We both knew that the procedure was happening while we were gone, so we were anxiously waiting the results. My brother's wife called and told us that the results were negative, and so we all had a collective sigh of relief. In hindsight, this was the first mistake that I personally felt like I made. I didn't ask enough questions, I didn't dig deep enough, I didn't ask for second opinions, I should have pressed further. You see, when it comes to your own health, you need to be your own health advocate. Had I been paying more attention, I could have pressed the doctors for more information about how often these things are misdiagnosed, if we should have gotten another opinion, maybe we should have got some imaging done just to be safe. Why is this the first mistake? Because it's human behavior to grab onto good news as fast as you can and to not explore the other alternatives. Why would you go seek out a bad result? We live in a world where many people avoid a checkup because they'd rather not know something is wrong. Ignorance truly is bliss until it's too late. So when we got the all clear in October of 2019, we all exhaled and quickly forgot that it was even something that happened. Now I'm sure my mom still wondered, but for the rest of us, we kind of went on life as we knew it. This leads me to my first piece of advice to anyone who has a concern about their health. Don't take the healthcare professional's words as gospel. You know your body best, so if you feel like something's wrong, still keep looking for answers. Ask for a second opinion, ask for referral. You're not hurting any feelings, and it's your health after all that you're looking after. It's nothing personal. Doctors and nurses are busy, and they can't give every patient the true time and attention they all deserve. They see dozens of patients a day, and they barely have enough time to eat lunch. So you can imagine what they have to go through when they're triaging the way through a packed schedule. So you need to be an advocate for yourself or have someone in your corner who can advocate for you. Looking back, I think my mom should have gotten a second opinion, and she should have had imaging done to see if it was a localized event or if it had spread. Hindsight is 2020 though, so we'll never know if this could have been caught sooner. I do have my hunches that it could have though. The bright side about all this is that she's a proactive person. She never misses a checkup, and she gets dental cleanings twice a year. So in that regard, I'm thankful that she got checked and found it as soon as she did. I also think that she was pretty worried that it might come back in the future, so she was hyper aware about her surroundings. Fast forward to the pandemic, my mom thought she felt a lump on her neck in May of 2020. But the clinics were all still on lockdown though, and so only emergency visits were allowed. She finally got back to the doctor's office in June, and after some examinations, they recommended her getting a CT scan. Up until this point, the doctor had put off the seriousness of the potential issues, but I'm kind of clueless to all this because up until this point, my parents kept me in the dark, and to be honest, outside of them telling me everything is okay, I didn't really do much pressing. Again, human nature is to sweep bad news under the rug. I didn't go seeking more information because why would anyone want to seek bad news? Also, if I put myself in the shoes of my mom, would I want someone telling me, I think the doctors are wrong, I think you are sick, you need to go see someone else? No, no one wants that. So, unfortunately for myself, I needed to stay in my own lane. In terms of due diligence of the healthcare system, I think that's a topic for another day. So anyway, my mom got a CT scan and they immediately wanted to biopsy it. This was the first red flag that something was wrong. They saw other lumps in her imaging and they needed to know what it was ASAP. Couple this with what they found in 2019, and I think they were putting two and two together. Up until this point, they didn't tell us anything though. They wanted to keep us calm and not running around with our heads cut off. So they did a biopsy shortly after the 4th of July weekend. It took about 2 or 3 weeks to confirm what it was. It was non-Hodgkins lymphoma, but a rare version that was faster growing and only 2% of NHL patients are diagnosed with. I still remember like it was yesterday, the day that my dad called me to tell me about the diagnosis. It was August 12th. He had a hard time pronouncing it, and I still do as well. He told me that my mom had angioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma. Pretty sure at that point I felt like my head was underwater. I had a million questions all at once and nowhere to turn to get any answers. Coming from the healthcare field, I knew going to Google would just make me more concerned because everything would just be doom and gloom, but I still needed to go see what it was. But before that, I went over there that evening to calm my parents down. I didn't have any answers for them, but I knew that this would be hard on both of them, so I needed to be there. I just didn't know how hard it was going to be on both of them. Within 48 hours, we had a visit lined up with our oncologist. A huge thank you to the team at Minnesota Oncology in Edina. They got my mom in immediately and we started the process. They looked out for us from the very beginning. I consider our family to be lucky. We got into the oncologist's office quickly and it allowed us to get started as soon as possible. Had we not been able to get squeezed in, I don't know how long we would have had to wait. The first visit to the oncologist was a long day. We got there at 1 p.m. and we didn't leave till well after 5. I think it's extremely important that someone going through cancer treatment has someone by their side from the very beginning. I know that's not possible for everyone, but if you have that ability to be a caregiver and be a support system, I think it's important that you be there and do it. The amount of information that was put in front of my parents was immense. I'm glad I could be there alongside them to translate and ask questions and be their advocates. When it was all said and done, we were there for 4 hours, meeting with many people on their team. We were introduced to the type of cancer my mom had, the type of treatment she would need, and the options that were in front of her. And we also were told at that point that my mom had a chance to go into full remission if the cancer drugs worked properly. Our next step was to do all the necessary preparations to get treatment. Her doctor wanted her to start as soon as possible, and that meant the very next week was going to be filled with a lot of visits to the clinic or the hospital for various procedures and tests. We also had visits lined up with people like dietitians and psychologists and others that are going to help take care of for the care coordination of my mom. Many of these interactions flowed through me because I did most of the talking for her, as I did a lot of the translating. It's not that my mom can't speak English, it's just that there's just some words that even I don't understand. Here are some of the things I learned along the way that might be helpful for you. Don't get caught in the Google search rabbit hole too early. Wait to talk to your doctor beforehand. Because sometimes knowing too much doesn't do you any good, because you create your own narratives that aren't even true. So while it's helpful to know a little bit more about it, don't spend hours just dwelling on what you're trying to find by going through Google. Understand that many of the articles you find online are written by scientists and have a lot of medical terminology. And that terminology can be cold and unforgiving. and in some cases can be misleading. Don't let it play mind tricks on you. Every patient is different and every outcome is different. You're going to experience a lot of different emotions and they're going to hit you like a tidal wave at different times. Take a deep breath, you'll be okay. And I think the most important thing to help you get through it is to tell people that are close to you so they can support you when you need it most. I'm going to cut this video here, and in the next episode, I'll talk through one of the toughest experiences a human can go through. Chemo treatment itself, but even before that, the preparation for treatment. Thanks for joining me on Adam Theory. See you next time, and we'll talk soon.